Welcome to my No Dog Licks channel. Well, today I'm going to tell you a story. Doesn't matter whether or not you believe in any kind of a being, but the fact that I'm still living has to prove something. I mean, the things that we are on our way to the farm. We were little and we had our sleds. We were going to go ride them down the big hill at the farm. And my dad says, well, there's a lot of snow on the road. Why don't you go ahead and tie your sleds to the back of the bumper of the VW bus and he would pull us along. Well, he did. And we did. And I just remember we were going, nah, it felt like we were going very, very fast. I'm sure he wasn't going as fast as I thought we were. But there was areas where there was snow on the road, and there was areas where there weren't snow on the road. So, of course, we just enjoy sliding all around whenever we're in the back. Uh, we did get covered up because the tires were throwing out a lot of slush and stuff. Whenever we would hit those blacktop un- with no snow, the sparks would fly. And he wouldn't slow down. He just kept on going. We went uphill and downhill and round turns and just kept on behind that bus. Well, probably I'm no more than 6 feet behind, tied off to the bumper. Some other farm things that we did. Um, I was the smallest, so I got to do the things that the older people couldn't do. Um, I couldn't throw the bells up on the trailer, wasn't strong enough, but I was good enough to roll the bells into piles in the field. Uh, the problem was they left me up there and no water or anything else. Uh, so I would build little huts out of the bells to be able to climb into to get out of the sun. Uh, the Whenever it became bailing time, uh, and we would bail, I would ride with my dad on the tractor, and whenever the twine would get low, I would have to get another thing, and he did not stop. I would have to grab a hole and tie a knot and put the new spool down on the pin while it was running. uh, I was small again. We done combining the wheat and the oats. Uh, the straw would bunch up inside the chute or the back of the combine where it blows the straw out, and they would lift me up and put me on the shaker, and I would have to climb back into the combine and pull the straw out. Uh, let's see. All right. Some more things when I was little on the farm. Uh, I had to slop the pigs, carry the 5 gallon bucket of uh, garbage from the house, the food garbage. Uh, if we husked corn or anything left over would go into the bucket, and then I would have to carry it down to the pig pen and feed the hogs. Well, those things were big. At least I remember them being big, but they were friendly. I would climb into the pig trough with them. It was muddy and everything. It was right next to a little creek. And so they always had mud to roll around in and keep himself coated and stuff. But I would climb up onto them and ride them around in the little pig pen, big pen, pig pen as far as I remember. And You know, just things like that. I remember neutering them in the barn whenever, uh, I don't know why they'd done that. I guess so they didn't have as many boars that could crossbreed and stuff like that. Um, so that was one of the things. Easily could walk underneath a cow and put the milking apparatuses on their tits, and they never kicked me or anything. They knew who I was. Heck, whenever it was time to get milked, I would just go out to the corner of the barn and start mooing, and they would all come running. So they knew me pretty well. We did have a bull, Henry the bull. He was huge, but he was friendly, at least to me. Anytime he seen me, he would put his head down and he would let me sit on top of his head, and then he would throw me about 10 feet away. Uh, but that was a game that we played all the time. I would go and grab a hold of his leg, and he would walk with me just dangling on. Uh, there was one place he didn't like me touching. When you reach around, sometimes you accidentally didn't quite care for that. Now, I could pull on his tail all day long. He would pull me around in the mud. Well, in winter, it was ice. He'd pull me around on that. Me and him got along pretty darn good. Mom and Dad had a house in the city before Dad fell in love with the farm and said, "We're going to buy a farm and move out onto it." My mother said, "Okay." And they did move out to the farm, uh, 212 acres in Pennsylvania. They kept the house. I think they rented it out to some family members or something like that. And I believe we lived on the farm for, oh heck, 2 or 3 years or so. Uh, and then we moved back to the city. Well, we were still maintaining the farm, and we would uh, take trips out there very frequently. And one day, on the way there, the road we would travel had some dips that were blind spots, and uh, we were coming up toward the hill, and we came to the blind spot, and there was a bus coming down the hill, and it was entering the blind spot. What we didn't see was the driver behind the bus decided to pass. So just as we both came out of the blind spot, we had a crash. My dad was killed immediately. The Squire, um, it was a station wagon, a Ford Squire, and it literally took the station wagon and flipped it 50 yards up onto the hillside. Uh, my brothers, they survived and they came out. Apparently, I went out of the side window. I was right behind my dad, and I was in the middle of the road down on the ground or on the road. Um, so, you know, they thought everybody thought I was dead, but a family member came and he checked. He says, "No, he's still living." And so, next thing I knew, I woke up in the hospital pulling glass out of my head, and they didn't want me to watch TV because fear I would see that my dad had got killed. But I understood that. Being on a farm, you're always the one supping with the animals, harvesting them, and that kind of, I understood. It does happen. So the loss of my dad, I didn't really cry over it, but I did understand what was going on. Um, sad, sad little story, but that's another reason why I have to say somebody's looking out for me. Oh, this comes way back to the very beginning when we first moved out to the farm. Farm had a coal furnace, and I remember going down the steps into the basement to stoke the furnace. You would open up that door, and the fire would be raging in there, and you would just take a few big lumps of coal and you would throw it in there, and then close the door, and then go back upstairs. Going up between the door upstairs and the bottom of the steps, there was exposed electrical wires. These wires were tied to porcelain bobbins, but the wires had no insulation. They were just fully exposed. I guess that's how it was wired through the whole house, because I do remember seeing wires just kind of spun around onto these main wires. But I could literally touch them if I wanted to, but never did, luckily. Um, but before, when I would get that furnace really, really raging hot, there was a register that was kind of above the furnace. And being young, I had crayons. So I would take the crayons and I would put them on the register because it was hot enough to melt crayons. And as the crayon melted, it dropped on top of the red hot, maybe white hot furnace. And it would make this big explosion. But that was kind of fun. Kind of fun. And another one kind of related to that was when we were leaving the farm. They had piled the furniture up really, really high. And me being smallest and always doing the climbing, I climbed up to the very top of those there. And before I knew it, my brothers came out with some gasoline, poured it all around it, and lit it. I was laying down on the couch that was sitting on top. And the whole thing just went up in flames, and here I am on top. And maybe 10 feet I had to jump from the top and down to the ground, but I did make it. Again, somebody was watching out for me. I think that's enough information for right now. I'll come up with some more life stories and tell them to you at another time. But I do appreciate you hanging out with me and listening to my stories. They are true stories. And please subscribe to the channel and come back and comment. Please do. I want to know what I could do to help grow this channel.